Lawyers for divorce on Reddit? What's the worst thing you've seen someone do to cheat on their partner? This man was getting a divorce from his wife of 15 years, and my uncle was his lawyer. They split everything 50/50 after a very bad breakup, even the land where their house was built. She chose to build a house right next to the other one. Keep in mind that there was a lot of land between the two home sites, about 200 yards. The homes were built so that their backs faced each other. While the house is being built, my uncle gets a call from a friend who wants to know if something he did was legal. He saw his ex-wife all the time because she spent a lot of time in her lawn. It was a girl dog that he bought and named after his ex-wife. He would yell, "Susan, you B-word, get in here," every time he let his dog back inside after being outside. He would also yell at her if she pooped on the flowers. "Sue, please stop peeing on the flowers." Better yet, "Susan, stop being a SXY jerk." His ex-wife called the police a few times, but they couldn't do anything, because the dog was listed under the name Susan, even though it was a female dog. That's all there is to it. The couple broke up 10 years ago, but they didn't get a divorce until a few years ago. To get his house, he burned it down, and then faxed her the forms to change her title. He could go to jail for setting fires, though. Worked at a law company that was served as evidence in a divorce case involving a partner from my firm and a partner from another large law firm. More than 70 orders were sent to banks, law firms, finance firms, and other businesses. He had hidden more than $20 million abroad, and she was sure he knew about it. It got so bad that she found receipts from 25 years ago to try to figure out what he was up to. In the end, the judge said this is silly after she had spent $1.5 million on lawyers and gone through 7 of them. You don't deserve any of this fake $20 million because there was no plot and there was no scheme. Keep in mind that this was a partner at a big law company acting badly. She was famous and made a lot of money every year, but she seems to have lost her mind. Bad separation wife put in a call for the husband to stay away from her. Common as heck. Not a bad person, but not a great one either. His mother was dying a year after the split. Before she died, he asked his sister to talk to his ex-wife and bring the kids to see her in the hospital. The wife never did. She went to court instead and said that by trying to get in touch with her, he broke the protection order. You can't get in touch with someone through someone else. He said he did it and gave an explanation, but he was still found to have broken the order. His mother died while he was in jail, and his wife never took the kids to see her. They were lawyers, so I heard the story. There was a car that caused a lot of trouble between the husband and wife during the divorce processes. The husband finally gives in after months of saying he would never let his wife have the car. He does this in exchange for something nice, like one of their summer houses. It turned out that he had been driving the car around the city for 3 hours every day, putting so many miles on it that it was almost useless. It's hard to believe how much planning and spite went into that. When I was in graduate school, I worked as a consultant for 2 divorce lawyers. Their client worked as a pilot for a living. There was a big difference in their pay because his wife only worked part-time. It was a bad breakup. Even though the process wasn't over yet, taxes had to be paid. The accountant for the wife just called, and her lawyer tells my guys that they can save about $8,000 each if they can just share their W-2s and file jointly instead of separately. The guys in my group told the husband about that. That girl is stupid, he tells her. Losing $8 grand is going to hurt her more than it will hurt me. Man, it's as cold as ice. If your income is less than a certain amount, the government will pay for most of your court fees here in the Netherlands. This means that if one partner in a divorce has little or no income and the other has a normal income, the person with the normal income will have to pay a lot if the process takes too long. Since there are many ways to make it last longer, I've seen cases go on for ridiculously long periods of time. There is a catch though. The government gives your lawyer a set amount of money every month. But if the money you get from a divorce or something else is more than a certain amount, you have to pay your own lawyer. That's why we still keep track of the hours in these cases. This one woman, who thought she was being unfair to her ex-husband by dragging out the split for years, was finally paid 40,000 euros. She had to give back most of that money right away because her lawyer fees were too high. There was a sense of what was right there. Also, it shows over and over that lawyers are usually the only ones who really win when there is a fight. A lot of times, as a banker, a shared debt or credit card came up right before a divorce which caught one of the parties by surprise. Well, drained all the way down to zero. It's especially bad when it's a student or a young child who is upset after a breakup and has debts they can't pay off. One of the men I knew was married to a woman who slept with another man, had the kid with that other guy, and never told his husband. Then, for some other reason, they start the divorce process. The husband finds out that the child isn't his through a DNA test. However, the courts decide that he still has to pay child support because it's what's best for the child. The wife was a teacher, and the husband worked at CVS. I helped them get a divorce. I spoke for the wife. Basically, the wife was the family's main source of income. She took care of herself, her husband, and their 2 kids. One of the kids was seriously autistic and needed a lot of help and a lot of money for school and therapy. The husband, who was living alone, sued the wife, who was taking care of both children, for temporary spousal support while the split was going on. He did everything the law said he had to do to get it, but it just seemed fishy. On the day of the hearing, the judge threw out all the facts and yelled at the husband for 20 minutes. He said that he was a disgusting person who represented everything that was wrong with society. That's when the judge said he couldn't do anything else but give the spousal support. He made it clear that he didn't like the husband at all. As we were leaving the courthouse, the husband kept telling my crying client, "Fuck you, you jerk." It was literally the worst thing that people can do. This is what a customer told me. I'm not a divorce lawyer, but as a banker I get to know a lot about people's personal lives. It was pretty clear that they were getting a divorce, but as a worker, I don't care why. However, I'm concerned about his money. My guy brought in the money for the family. I think he was a building manager, which means he planned, paid, and supervised his workers. He was great. It looks like his wife wanted everything. But the thing that really annoyed him was that she took his boat, which he had bought before they met. Funny thing is, she can't afford a truck or anything else to move the boat with. He had to move his boat legally with his truck to a place where she was staying and leave it there. He dropped his boat. At the end, he asked me how old I was. I tell him 21. He told me not to get married. At the end, I'll get to keep everything. I saw a man's future ex-wife fight hard over his disability payments while he was still in the service. Being sued didn't bother her because she had a new boyfriend to pay for it. So she dragged out the divorce and split of assets for months because her soon-to-be ex-husband had not yet turned in his disability payments. Total amount she should have been able to get? Around $400? That was before the Supreme Court said that disabled payments are not property of a marriage. It was a bunch of small talk. Wife and husband number 1 are getting a divorce and have a child. The child goes to the wife. The child support is paid by husband number 1. Second husband and wife get married. The child is adopted by husband number 2. Since husband number 2 is now officially the father, husband number 1 doesn't have to pay child support anymore. The second wife and husband split up. That's why husband number 2 has to pay child support for the kid. The wife marries again with him number 1. After moving in with husband number 1, the child now lives with him. Husband number 2, who adopted the child, still has to pay child support. My wife is a divorce lawyer, and she told me about this case. They were still living together while they were getting a divorce, but they had their own beds and everything. The husband would buy snacks like chips or crackers and bring them home to his soon-to-be ex-wife. She would smash the bag until the snacks were dust, but she would never open the bag. But every time he tried a snack he thought was new, it turned out to be old. He also did not get a protection order or anything else for this. But he was really mad about the dust snacks. As a court worker, I worked with a lot of divorce cases. You wouldn't believe how many people bring naked shots of their soon-to-be ex-partners to court as proof. Not because the pictures have anything to do with the divorce, but just to make them look bad. Unless the judge seals them, court files are open to the public. This means that anyone who wants to can look at the court file and all of its attachments. The saddest part of the court system is family court. Don't give people naked pictures. The wife found out that her husband had been cheating on her. She went back to their old house one day and put shrimp in every curtain rod. As the husband tried to sell the house, he couldn't figure out where the smell came from. He has to sell it for a huge loss and less than it's worth because it smells bad. It was actually the wife who bought it. That husband was a pretty good guy. He took care of the family and was a good dad to the kids. He wanted to end the marriage as quickly and peacefully as possible, but his cheating wife wanted everything, even his soul in all its forms. She got the house, child custody, and alimony, but they both had to pay thousands of dollars in extra lawyer fees over a vase and a journal. The husband's grandma owned both of the things. They were the only things she brought with her when she fled the Holocaust and came to the U.S. In the end, the judge said that the wife also got those things. She broke the vase with a hammer and set fire to the notebook as soon as she got them. She put the vase bits and journal ashes at the opening of his one-bedroom apartment, which he had to move into because of money problems. On this case, I did some work for the lawyer. And business broker in your area who has done well. Strong business with a lot of wealthy clients. Wife runs a small store in the neighborhood. A hobby for pets. Doesn't really make money. It's been 2 years since they last got pregnant. Working with doctors and centers that do reproductive work. Wife gets pregnant at last. A chance of 1 in a million. Born a boy, this woman. Let's jump ahead a few months. The wife has to go to the market for her store and spends the day in a big city 2 hours away. The husband was ready for this, and he uses the chance to get the baby tested for paternity, but not by his own father. He was tested when they first got to the pregnancy clinic and knew he was shooting blanks. He then calls his lawyer, who is my boss, and we start making plans. Someone is following his wife while we work on the case. He goes with her to the doctor, tennis classes, daily lunch at the country club, and to hang out with her friends. The country club is where her friends have decided to have her birthday party. We have a chance now. I give her the divorce papers and ask her out loud what her name is. Once she says it, I tell her why I'm divorcing her. Cheating. You are being told to go to the blank county court. Blah blah. Her friends are shocked. It turns out that she and her friends are all cheating on each other with people from the same social group. We go to court and show proof that the husband is not the father. We also ask that his name be taken off the birth certificate. Because the judge doesn't want the child to become a state ward, he tells her to make a list of all the people she slept with during the acceptable window of time for conception. The list comes from her. The next time he goes to court, 10 guys with a wide range of characters show up. There is a sports teacher, a doctor, 2 cooks, a trust fund prince, and a few other people to round out the group. One was the father of the person they really needed, but she didn't say which one it was when she said John Doe. Everyone was told to get a DNA test. Our client is able to get his name taken off of the birth record and doesn't have to pay child support or alimony. The wife and the baby's father agree to pay child support and support for a number of years. She does win in the end. The doctor was there, she has to leave the area, and the doctor will pay for it. There is a deal in place. I signed the NDA. The doctor had a lot of money and worked hard to keep his good name. Because the child would be supported, the court let the birth record say no data trust fund. The husband closed on their house while the wife was at work. He brought his mom with him, and she signed the papers. After many years, they get a divorce, and the wife wants to move out. However, the mom sends her an eviction notice. Wife didn't know they were paying rent. I was asked to handle a legal case after a divorce. The guy was owed about $5,000, which hadn't been paid in a few years, and was now due in full before the court. He called because he saw some money she was looking through and wanted the courts to take it away. The money came from a firehouse dinner that raised money for her cancer treatment since she didn't have health insurance. I said no. My worst client was crazy about his wife. He was told to pay 3,000 rupees a month as a temporary payment. This man gets $3,000 in 1 rupee coins from the bank and gives them to his wife in court. In a formal sense, it's okay. And then he says he wants the bag back. The wife had to sit there and count all the coins in court. In a way, it's his bag. This woman now has 3,000 coins but can't get them home. This person was very smart and evil. I worked as a paralegal before, but I wasn't a lawyer. I read about a case, but when I tried to find it, I couldn't remember what it was called. They owned about $15 million worth of things together, with the husband having about 90% of the things before they got married. The courts wanted to give the husband the rest of the money and give the wife about $2 million. The husband wanted to leave the wife with nothing. He spent all of his money fighting every step of the way by filing pointless papers and generally being a jerk. After paying lawyers' fees, fines, costs, and money lost on schemes, the parties had about $500,000 left in their assets. The courts gave it all to the wife, leaving him with no money at all. Guy gets a big lottery win. $1 million. Doesn't tell his wife. In a way, half of it belongs to her. The tax has already been paid, so all he has to do is write it down on the tax forms that his wife always signs without looking. Split up. Husband is not a bother. Her lawyer tells her to accept the generous divorce settlement. He moves to a nearby town and goes about his normal life, but over time he loses touch with everyone who knows him. Then he moves again, and no one can reach him. That is when he spends the money. It's a bit of a story, but here it is. He has lived on his family farm his whole life. His mother lives with him, but his father has died. His mom tells him one day that he should get married because he is getting older. He meets someone on the web. It doesn't matter that she already has a teenage daughter. Things go well, and now everyone lives on the farm together. He takes care of the farming, and she agrees to do the books. When his wife finds out how much money he really has, she spends a lot of it. She takes her daughter to private schools, buys pricey things, etc. She doesn't pay the farm's costs. The land still had a loan on it. He learns about it when the bank calls to tell him he's past due and nothing has been paid. The farm is lost to him. There is a big fight between him and his wife. After they broke up, she kicked him and his mother out of the house, even though it was theirs to begin with. He then goes to the city. It bothers him. He had been working in the country his whole life, after all. He calls his friend and asks if he can stay with him when he gets back to town. He gets to the house of his friend. The friend isn't there. He finds his ex-wife and her daughter instead. He lost it. He got a gun out of his car and killed both of them. There are some stories from my lawyer husband. A father hit his 5-year-old daughter, and when the girl's mother found out, she left the father and asked for custody. The vengeful jerk said his wife hit the girl, just so she wouldn't get custody either. The girl went to see his wife's parents, and all of a sudden, the husband remembers that his wife's parents beat her up too. All of this was done again just to keep the wife from getting custody. During the investigations, the girl was in foster care for a whole year. Her wife and parents were found not guilty. The father did his time and can now visit with supervision. He loved shooting more than anything else and sold guns for a living. He was married to that woman. As she knew he would no longer be able to own or carry guns, she accused him of domestic abuse. Next, a woman who was going through a divorce asked her soon-to-be ex to get back together, slept with him, offered him drink, and then threw him out of the house. She called the police to say that someone was driving in the road. Because of the DUI, he was caught, jailed, and fired from his job. He had to drive for work. Finally, a man told his wife that he would give up custody of their twin girls if she promised not to ask for alimony or to split any of their assets. She agreed. And that was the end of the split. It was the day the papers were signed that he went after full custody of the twins. He said he could take better care of them because he had a bigger house, and she only had an apartment, and he was better off financially, etc. His lawyer told him to leave her with as little as possible. When the judge wouldn't give him control because of how things were before, he went after one of them and broke up the twins. For good. So many stories, but these are the ones that usually make me feel the sickest. Wife has a child. The child doesn't interest the husband at all, and he even doesn't like how the child draws attention away from him. Tells wife that she is in charge of the child in every way, even with money. Wife knows husband is a bad parent, which means he's also a bad partner. She would rather raise her child by herself than deal with his man-baby nonsense. A divorce paperwork is sent in. His lawyer tells the husband that he'll have to pay less child support if he spends more time with his child. His wife starts taking him to the doctor and doing things with the child, being a parent. The couple is no longer together. The husband shares time with the kids 50/50 and is a wonderful dad. Wife only wanted husband to care about the child, but she had to get a divorce to get what she wanted. When I was a law clerk, I had this case. His job was very important, and he was sent to a different country. His wife and 2 children moved with him. He made a lot of money and didn't have to pay for anything. His wife, on the other hand, was a stay-at-home mom or had no other income. When the marriage ended, they went back to Sweden. The wife then sued for alimony, which was the law's way of making sure she could take care of the kids every other week. She had been out of work for a while and was having a hard time finding work again. Not saving anything, etc. All of a sudden, the husband, who hadn't had to pay any bills in years, said he was broke too. He had about $1 million, and he had to spend it on an apartment in one of the most expensive parts of town just to have a place to live. Make sure to click the bell to turn on alerts after you join.